You think deepening a friendship with a woman requires the perfect words, perfect timing, perfect confidence. But the truth is, most awkwardness is not caused by saying the wrong thing. It's caused by trying too hard to control how she sees you. That pressure changes your energy before you even speak. You start performing instead of connecting. You start managing impressions instead of being present. And the moment you do that, the interaction stops feeling natural. Subscribe if you're serious about learning social truth instead of recycled dating nonsense. Not because this channel needs subscribers, because you need reminders in a world full of fake confidence tactics and manipulative advice. Most men are not struggling because they lack potential. They're struggling because they've been taught to approach connection from insecurity instead of groundedness. Here's what this really means. A deep friendship with a woman is not built through constant impressing. It's built through emotional safety, authenticity, consistency, and grounded masculine presence. And most men sabotage that before the connection even has room to grow. Why? Because they walk into every interaction secretly trying to secure validation. That changes everything. The tone changes. The energy changes. The pressure changes. You stop listening naturally because you're busy calculating responses. You stop expressing yourself honestly because you're afraid of looking awkward. You stop relaxing because you're emotionally invested in being liked. That's called approval seeking. And approval seeking quietly destroys real connection because people can feel when your attention is on yourself instead of the interaction. Think about it. Why do conversations sometimes feel effortless with certain people? Because nobody is trying to force an outcome. Nobody is gripping the moment too tightly. The energy is open instead of desperate. But many men approach female friendships carrying hidden tension. They want closeness, but they fear rejection. They want connection, but they fear awkwardness. They want authenticity, but they fear losing attraction. So they become emotionally stiff, too careful, too filtered, too agreeable. And ironically, the harder you try not to make things awkward, the more awkward you become. Because tension leaks. A woman can feel when a man is mentally trapped inside his own head. She can feel when every interaction has invisible pressure attached to it. That's why some men seem nice, but still create discomfort around women. Not because they're bad people. Because their energy feels emotionally loaded, every conversation feels like it secretly needs to become something. Friendship cannot grow naturally under emotional pressure. Now listen carefully, because this is where most men misunderstand female psychology completely. Women do not deeply connect to perfection. They connect to emotional congruence. That means your words, energy, behavior, and intentions feel aligned instead of performative. You know what creates awkwardness fast? Pretending. Pretending to be cooler than you are. Pretending not to care. Pretending to agree with everything she says. Pretending confidence while internally panicking. That disconnect creates friction, and friction creates discomfort. A grounded man is different. He is relaxed without trying to appear relaxed, interested without becoming needy, confident without performing dominance, present without forcing chemistry. That energy feels safe. And emotional safety is what allows friendship to deepen naturally, not manipulation, not tactics, not scripted lines. Presence. A lot of men think awkwardness comes from silence. No, awkwardness comes from insecurity reacting to silence. There's a difference. A secure man can sit in quiet without panicking. He doesn't rush to fill every gap with nervous talking because his self-worth is not hanging on the interaction. But insecure men fear pauses because pauses force them to confront their internal anxiety. So they overtalk, over-explain, overperform, and the conversation starts feeling unnatural. You need to understand something important. Women are extremely sensitive to emotional pressure, not because they are too emotional. Because social awareness is part of how many women evaluate safety, trust, and authenticity. She notices your tone, your tension, your reactions, your need for approval, your emotional steadiness. You cannot hide desperation with words. Your nervous system exposes you. That's why the solution is not memorizing techniques. The solution is becoming more grounded internally. Because when you stop obsessing over outcomes, your social presence changes automatically. Now let's address another hard truth. A lot of men ruin potentially meaningful friendships because they secretly approach friendship as a waiting room for romance. Read that carefully. They pretend to be just friends, but internally they are constantly hoping for validation, attraction, or emotional escalation. So every interaction becomes emotionally charged. If she talks about another guy, they get jealous. If she takes longer to reply, they overthink. If she treats them casually, they feel rejected. That's not friendship. That's hidden attachment. And hidden attachment creates awkwardness because your behavior becomes inconsistent. One moment you're calm, next moment you're distant, then overly attentive. then withdrawn again. Why? Because your emotional state keeps reacting to unspoken expectations. This is why self-awareness matters. You need clarity with yourself before you can create clarity with another person. Ask yourself honestly, do you genuinely value the friendship itself? Or are you only tolerating friendship because you hope it becomes something else? Be honest. Because if your intentions are confused, your energy will become confused too. Now, this does not mean attraction is wrong. Attraction is natural, but emotional honesty matters. A grounded man does not build fake friendships while secretly resenting the friendship itself. That creates bitterness. That creates passive aggression. That creates emotional confusion. Real connection requires internal alignment. And here's another mistake men make. They think deepening friendship means constant availability. So they overinvest immediately, always texting first, always responding instantly, always emotionally available, always adapting their schedule. That intensity can create pressure fast because healthy connection grows through rhythm, not emotional flooding. You do not deepen friendship by overwhelming someone with access. You deepen friendship through consistency. Consistency, presence, trust, shared experiences, emotional steadiness. That's what creates depth. A lot of men try to speed run emotional closeness because they fear losing momentum. But forced closeness usually backfires because authentic connection needs breathing room. Think about the strongest friendships in your life. They probably didn't form through nonstop emotional intensity. They formed naturally over time through repeated experiences, mutual respect, honesty, humor, and emotional reliability. That same principle applies here. Stop trying to force emotional depth in every conversation. Not every interaction needs to become profound. Not every silence needs fixing. Not every moment needs validation. Relax. Connection grows stronger when you stop gripping it so tightly. Now let's talk about masculine groundedness because this changes everything. The man who naturally builds strong friendships with women is usually not the loudest guy, not the smoothest guy, not the guy constantly trying to impress everyone. He is the grounded guy, the man who has a life outside the interaction, the man whose identity does not depend on female approval, the man who listens fully because he is not obsessing over performance, the man who can express interest without losing emotional control, the man who respects boundaries without becoming resentful. That man creates comfort. Why? Because there's no emotional chaos around him. He is not trying to extract validation from every interaction. He is not trying to force outcomes. He is not secretly panicking about how he's perceived. He's there, fully there. That kind of presence is rare. And people trust rare energy. You know what destroys friendships quickly? Neediness disguised as kindness. A lot of men become overly nice because they think constant accommodation creates closeness. So they suppress opinions, hide boundaries, avoid disagreement, and over-prioritize the other person's comfort. That seems harmless at first. But eventually, resentment builds because you're not being authentic anymore. You're performing a version of yourself designed to avoid rejection. That's exhausting. And women can often sense it even if they can't explain why. A friendship deepens when both people feel free to exist honestly. Not perfectly. Honestly, that means you stop trying to become hyper-agreeable just to maintain approval. You can disagree calmly. You can tease lightly. You can express preferences. You can say no. You can maintain your own rhythm. That's called emotional independence. And emotional independence creates respect because it communicates self-worth. Now let's talk about conversation itself. Most men think deep conversation means saying impressive things. No. Deep conversation usually comes from genuine attention. People open up when they feel heard, not interrogated. Stop trying to force emotional vulnerability immediately. You don't need to turn every interaction into a therapy session. In fact, many men create awkwardness because they rush emotional intimacy too fast. They ask deeply personal questions too early, overshare too quickly, try to create artificial bonding. That intensity can feel emotionally invasive. Instead, let trust develop gradually. Listen more carefully. React more honestly. Pay attention to emotional nuance. Remember small details naturally. Be curious without interrogating. Depth grows through accumulated trust, not emotional ambushes. Another important truth, stop fearing awkward moments so much. Seriously. Awkwardness is normal. Human beings are awkward sometimes. The problem is not awkwardness itself. The problem is your reaction to it. Insecure men treat awkward moments like emergencies. Secure men let them pass naturally. A small silence happens. Okay. A joke doesn't land perfectly. Okay. A conversation loses momentum briefly. Okay. You do not need flawless social performance to build meaningful connection. You need emotional resilience. And resilience comes from not making every interaction mean something about your worth. That shift changes your entire social life. because now rejection doesn't destroy you. Now pauses don't scare you. Now uncertainty doesn't control you. Now you can actually enjoy people instead of psychologically managing them. That's freedom. Now let's go deeper into female psychology for a moment. Many women feel safest around men who are emotionally stable without being emotionally closed off. That combination matters. Coldness is not strength. Emotional dependency is not love. Grounded openness is the balance. The ability to communicate honestly without emotional chaos. The ability to show interest without losing composure. The ability to care without clinging. That energy creates trust. And trust is the foundation of deep friendship. Not constant entertainment. Not nonstop texting. Not exaggerated charm. Trust. Can she relax around you? Can she be herself around you? Can she disagree without drama? Can she trust your intentions? Can she trust your emotional steadiness? Those questions matter more than clever conversation. A lot of men underestimate how attractive emotional steadiness actually is. Because modern culture teaches men to chase intensity instead of groundedness. But intensity without stability burns people out. A grounded man feels different. He does not emotionally flood the interaction. He does not become possessive over friendship. He does not panic when communication fluctuates naturally. He does not need constant reassurance. That emotional stability creates space for authentic connection to grow. And here's something else you need to hear. Stop trying to win people over. That mindset creates pressure immediately because now every interaction becomes performance-based. You start thinking, how do I make her like me? How do I avoid messing this up? How do I deepen the connection fast? Wrong focus. The better question is, can we naturally build mutual trust and comfort over time? That mindset is calmer, healthier, more authentic. Connection is not something you force into existence through effort alone. It's something you allow through emotional honesty and consistent presence. Now let's talk about boundaries, because weak boundaries create awkward dynamics fast. If you constantly ignore your own needs to maintain harmony, eventually the friendship becomes emotionally imbalanced. You say yes when you mean no. You overextend yourself. You tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict. You become emotionally available at all times. Then resentment grows silently. And resentment always leaks eventually. A grounded man understands this. Boundaries protect connection. They do not destroy it. You can care deeply about someone while still respecting your own time, energy, and emotional well-being. In fact, healthy women often trust men more when those men have clear self-respect. Because self-respect creates predictability. Predictability creates safety. Now, imagine the man who truly understands all of this. He walks into interactions calm, not performative, not desperate, not trying to be alpha, just grounded. He has goals outside of relationships. He has standards. He has emotional discipline. He enjoys connection, but he does not emotionally collapse without it. He can laugh easily, listen deeply, speak directly, respect boundaries, handle silence, handle uncertainty. He is emotionally secure enough to let friendship develop naturally instead of forcing emotional acceleration. That man rarely creates awkwardness because awkwardness usually feeds on insecurity. And insecurity loses power when you stop making your worth dependent on outcomes. Now listen carefully because this next part matters. You do not deepen friendship by becoming less masculine. You deepen friendship by becoming more emotionally mature. There's a difference. Some men think they must become endlessly soft, agreeable, or emotionally passive to create comfort with women. No. Healthy masculine energy is calming when it is grounded properly. Decisiveness, emotional stability, integrity, presence, self-control. Those qualities create trust. The problem is not masculinity. The problem is insecurity wearing masculinity as a costume. Loud dominance, constant validation seeking, performative confidence, emotional suppression. That energy feels unstable. A truly grounded man does not need to prove himself constantly because he already knows who he is. And certainty in yourself reduces awkwardness automatically. Because now you stop overthinking every interaction. You stop analyzing every text. You stop obsessing over being perfect. You become more natural because you become more internally secure. So what should you actually do starting now? First, slow down emotionally. Stop trying to force connection quickly. Stop attaching your worth to outcomes. Stop treating every interaction like a test. Second, focus on presence instead of performance. Actually listen. Actually observe. Actually enjoy the interaction itself. Third, maintain your own life fully. Do not make the friendship your emotional center. Keep building your goals. Keep training. Keep growing. Keep strengthening your own identity. Fourth, communicate honestly without emotional heaviness. You do not need to impress people with depth every 5 minutes. Relax into normal conversation too. Fifth, stop fearing awkwardness. Seriously. Most awkward moments disappear naturally when you stop panicking about them. And finally, respect the natural pace of connection. Trust takes time. Comfort takes time. Depth takes time. Trying to accelerate all of it usually creates the exact discomfort you're trying to avoid. At the end of the day, deep friendship is not built through tactics. It's built through emotional steadiness. Your ability to remain authentic without becoming needy. Your ability to stay grounded without becoming emotionally closed. Your ability to care without clinging. Your ability to connect without losing yourself. That is real confidence, not performance, not manipulation, not social tricks. And once you understand that, your relationships change completely. Because now you stop chasing approval. Now you stop manufacturing personality. Now you stop over-controlling interactions. Now people experience the real you. And the real you becomes stronger when you stop abandoning yourself for validation. That's the real transformation. Not learning how to make women like you. Learning how to stand grounded enough that authentic connection can finally happen naturally. So if you've been overthinking female friendships, relax. You do not need to become someone else. You do not need perfect social skills. You do not need nonstop confidence. You need groundedness, self-respect, patience, emotional honesty. You are not here to perform your way into connection. You are not here to beg for comfort through approval. You are not here to build relationships on anxiety and overthinking. You are the answer you've been searching for. Your emotional discipline, your self-respect, your grounded presence, your ability to stay authentic under uncertainty. That is what creates meaningful connection. Subscribe if you want more truth like this, more clarity, more grounded perspective in a culture obsessed with performance and emotional confusion. And if you've been quietly rebuilding your confidence and learning how to connect without losing yourself, understand this. You are not alone. There are other men choosing self-respect over desperation, presence over performance, and authenticity over manipulation. Keep going.